The Wall, besides being one of the most well-known albums by the band Pink Floyd, is also a live-action animated psychological drama musical film directed by Alan Parker, based, of course, on the 1979 album of the same name. The screenplay was written by vocalist and bassist Roger Waters, and the Boomtown Rats vocalist Bob Geldof plays the main role, a rock star called Pink, who driving insane by the death of his father. Like the album, the film is highly metaphorical and symbolic. Imagery and sound are present most commonly. The film is mostly driven by music and features little dialogue from the characters, despite its turbulent production and the creators voicing their discontent about the final product. The film received generally positive reviews and has an established cult following. The film focuses on the erratic life of a rock star with a disturbed childhood, while the narration navigates between rabid social criticisms that points against totalitarian governments, World War II, the educational system, and the structures that oppress human beings. Immersed in an unbearable sensitivity, the protagonist experiences the pain of a world that is present in a pessimistic way. The movie was practically an individual project by Roger Waters, and he was in charge of writing the script. At the same time, it had the participation of Gerald Scarfe, who was in charge of the animation that occupied a large part of the footage, and that in a short time became more than iconic in pop culture. Scarfe is an English cartoonist and illustrator. He has worked as editorial cartoonist for the Sunday Times and illustrator for the New Yorker. He also worked for the BBC TV show Long Drawn Out Trip, and that's where Roger Waters see his work, and that's how he started working with Pink Floyd. He later produced a set of animated short clips used on the 1977 In the Flesh tour, including a full-length music video for the song Welcome to the Machine. Scarfe also drew the illustrations for their 1979 album The Wall and provided animation and stage props, including enormous inflatable characters for the subsequent 1980 and 1981 concert tour in support of the album. Later, he began to work on the film that emerged from The Wall. Appealing to symbolism and allegory, the animation have sexual, terrifying and also denunciatory character by representing the highest part of society as a true meat grinder and as ridiculed characters. In this sense, the sequences that correspond to the song Another Brick in the Wall are recorded to this day, since they show, without censorship, the idolization of children by the school system, in which they are seen as cattle which want to indoctrinate. Even before the original Pink Floyd album was recorded, the intention was to make a film from it. The original plan was for the film to be live footage from the album's tour, together with Gerald Scarfe animation and extra scenes, and for Waters himself to star, but EMI did not intend to make the film as they did not understand the concept. Director Alan Parker, who was a fan of Pink Floyd and had just directed Midnight Express and Fame, asked EMI whether The Wall could be adapted to film. EMI suggested that Parker talk to Waters, who had asked Parker to direct the film. Parker instead suggested that he produce it and give the directing task to Gerald Scarfe and Michael Ceresin. Waters began work on the film screenplay after studying scriptwriting books. He and Scarfe produced a special edition book containing the screenplay and art to pitch the project to investors. While the book depicted Waters in the role of Pink, after a screen test he was removed from the starring role and replaced with new wave musician Bob Geldof. Since Waters was no longer in the starring role, it no longer made sense to the feature to include Pink Floyd footage, so the live film aspect was dropped. Parker, Waters, and Scarfe frequently clashed during the production. Parker described the filming as one of the most miserable experiences of my creative life. Scarfe declared that he would drive to Pinewood Studios, where the interiors were filming, carrying a bottle of Jack Daniels because I had to have a slug before I went in the morning because I knew what was coming up and I knew I had to fortify myself in some way. Plus, Waters said that filming was a very unnerving and unpleasant experience. During production, while filming a scene in which the main character, Pink, had to destroy a hotel room, Geldof suffered a cut to his hand as he pulled away the Venetian blind. The footage remains in the film. Plus, it was discovered while filming the pool scene that Geldof didn't know how to swim. The water scene was shot on Saunton Sands in North Devon, which was also featured on the cover of Pink Floyd, A Momentary Lapse of Reasons, 6 years later. The film was shown out of competition during the 1982 Cannes Film Festival. The film's official premiere was at the Empire Leicester Square in London on 14 July 1982. It was attended by Waters and fellow Pink Floyd members David Gilmour and Nick Mason, but not Richard Wright, who was no longer a member of the band. The Wall opened with a limited release on 6 August 1982 and entered at number 28 on the US box office chart, despite only playing in one theater on its first weekend, grossing over $68,000, a rare feat even by today's standards. The film then spent just over a month below the top 20 while still in the top 30. The film later spanned 600 theaters and eventually earned $22 million in early 1983. After the movie, Pink Floyd would record The Final Cut, the band's last album with Roger Waters. Scarfe continued to work with Roger Waters, creating the graphic and animation of Waters' solo album, The Pros and Cons of Hitchhiking, and its supporting tour. Scarfe was also involved in subsequent theatrical adaptation of The Wall, where his animations were projected on a vast scale. The Wall is definitely a cultural milestone due to the multiplicity of elements that make it up, and it rightly drew attention for the combination of musical, drama, denunciation, and animation, besides being a key work in Pink Floyd's career. The beginning of the 80s was a convulsive moment for the entire world, and the film summarizes the irreverence of the artist and the need to take a position of denunciation after a series of historical events without precedent in modernity.